What's up, Norberg Nation? How's it going? So today we are going to be doing a race review of the last race that I competed in, the SCUSA Summer Nationals, that race that you guys all watch already on my channel. But we're going to watch that last lap battle, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what I should have done differently that would have won me the race. So before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out knowing that you guys are supporting the videos that I'm making for you. Now, let's get started with the race review. So to start this race, we are starting in the 5th position. I'm laying off the guy in third's bumper a little bit. I'm trying to get a good run off the line. In the US, we have a start box, so the pole sitter really dictates where he wants to go. I didn't get a best start. The guy in 4th was able to slide down in there and get me. The leaders are racing already pretty aggressively, and I fall back into the 5th position. Going down in this hairpin, I was really stuck on the inside. I broke really early to try and give myself some space because I was waiting for that secondary impact that I got right there. Luckily, it wasn't hard enough that it gave me a drop down, but I was aware that I was going to get hit a second time going into that corner, and so it pays a lot if you can space yourself out and give yourself a good little bit of time before you run into the guys and get a drop down penalty. So I didn't get a drop down. Right now we come out in the 5th position. Not the worst spot. We kind of got ran wide off of that 3rd corner by the 310 there. He's a bit aggressive. I don't anticipate him being fast as the race is going on. I've been around him a little bit this week. He's not been fast. He's really quick right now, and so in my head I'm going, the only thing that could really explain this, super high tire pressure, and then again, he's a little bit all over the place. He's not on the right line through his last couple corners, and in my head, I'm going, okay, got to get by him, and then we can start assessing the other drivers as we go down there. If he doesn't block here, I'm going to make the pass. He didn't block, I'm going to go to the inside. The leaders are still racing, which is a good thing. Obviously, the guy right there in the 2nd position right now, that's Joe Turney. He's been one of the fastest guys all week. The pre-final, he checked out on everybody because we started racing a lot. And so in this final, I think everybody kind of had the same idea of like, let's maybe not race so much and let's try and keep the race a little bit more interesting. And so you can see there, 362 gives us a signal like, let's not race. I get a good run here though, and I'm just not going to take the risk at all. I'm going to go down to the inside right there. Just a little bit of a later pass, but honestly, I've been dealing with everybody's been racing super tough, and so I didn't want to have to trust them to not race me. I was like, you know what, I'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt. I won't block, but I'm going to be the one leading this pack. I had a lot of speed this whole week, and so I was like, I need to kind of stay up front, and I want to just stay clear of everything really fast through that section there. But I really want to stay clear of all this, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be in this, rough racing thing where we're having to block every couple of corners. Tony goes to the inside of the 320. I just was gonna go, and then he kind of half blocked, and so I was like, you know what? I'm sending it. I'm done with this whole half blocking thing, and I'm gonna go. Kind of point to him like, let's go forward. Let's not race. What I didn't really notice though when I did that is that there was some grass on the racetrack. Luckily, I was able to make the corner. Turney kind of missed his braking zones there a little bit, and so I was able to slide into the 2nd position and didn't lose a whole lot of time. Right now, though, I'm really trying to kind of see where we're at with one another. I really want to look at, where is he, fast off the corners? Is he fast on the straightaways? Where am I quicker? What I'm noticing right now, though, is that I'm having I think I have a lot more grip than he does. And so it's one thing that you really want to be careful of is if you do notice that you're a bit faster early on. Obviously, you want to be able to take advantage of it because you are going to fall off towards the end of the race, but you got to take care of your tires as well. So you want to take advantage of it, but advantage of it in the right way. You don't want to overdrive the go-kart and, screw the tires up, because it doesn't matter if you have a 2nd lead at lap 16. If in a 20-lap race, they're going to close that gap pretty easily. And so right now, I've caught up to the 307. That's Joe Turney, and he's blocking a little bit there. The big thing though is I'm like, I don't want to get into a defensive battle. I was the fastest guy I think all week. And so he knows that, so he's wanting to keep me behind everybody, and so I'm like, I just really don't want to get into that. I'm really fast going into this downhill left-hander right here, and so I get a good run. He misses the apex a little bit there, and I'm like, if he leaves the door open down in this back right-handed hairpin, I'm going to make the pass. He looks back. I actually started closing on him after he looked back, so I think that's maybe why he didn't defend, because he was defending a little bit earlier, and I was able to get to the inside. What I wanted to do here, though, is obviously like a lot of the races I've done in the past, I'm able to kind of check out. I'm able to pace myself and kind of build that advantage as the race goes on. And so at this point, I was like, let's try and do that. Let's try and see if we can get ahead and really stretch our legs a little bit. When I was behind him, he was missing some apexes here and there. He was still getting good exits. So I'm looking at it and going, look, maybe he's a little bit higher on the sprocket than I am. He's still got some good bottom end. I feel a little bit stronger at the end of the straightaway, but that's, where he defended a little bit because he saw me getting a run. And so I'm going, okay, maybe, I can stretch this out. It's obviously better to have the lower gear if you're out front because you can kind of take advantage of the straightaways and kind of get away a little bit. So I really wanted to minimize the amount that I was looking back. I just wanted to focus on putting in good laps. I looked back a few times there when I got the lead just because I wanted to make sure, do I need to block, do I need to defend? I didn't need to. And so at this point I was like, let's just clock in some good solid laps and see what we can do. Maybe we can pull away. That would be the best case scenario, but that doesn't always happen. And so I was like, maybe we can pull away, and maybe we can get the car, where we need to. The only thing though that I really was struggling with is I was getting a little bit of an understeer out there. I was hoping it would go away as the tires got some heat in them. It didn't really, and so that's something that I'm trying to be cautious of. So there's some corners where I'm trying to attack a little bit harder, and I do end up getting an understeer, and so I really have to be careful of that as the race goes on. But overall, at this point, head down, just trying to clock in some good solid laps. So we're heading down the back straightaway here, and a few laps have gone by. Just put in good solid laps or fast laps, but they weren't enough to break the slipstream. So we were able to pull away from the rest of the field, but Joe is right behind me, and he is at a point where he's starting to get a little bit quicker. And that's what I'm saying. I think this is where the overlap in the tires was starting to take place. I think this is where mine were starting to kind of not plateau. I think they're still going faster, but his were definitely improving. And I think early in the race he was able to use the slipstream to kind of stay with me while he was building up heat in his tires. And now he feels obviously that he's in a much better spot. He should go to the lead and see if he can stretch away. We were racing for a championship at this point, and so the right thing to do is if you're racing for a championship is to try and back him up into your competitors. The reality of the situation was it wasn't that close of a championship, so it was one of those things like if I back him up, he's not going to fall back to 10th or 11th position. It's only a 20-car field, so he's not going to fall that far back up. So what's best is just try and get the best result we can out of this weekend and see what we can do. The biggest problem though that I had is once I got behind him, that understeer that I was talking about, it started to get a little bit worse. And so when you get behind drivers, obviously we're in go-karts, we're not going that fast, but you do get a little bit of an aero wash. The front end does kind of walk when you get behind another cart, specifically really close on him. And so I was making quite a few mistakes. I was clipping curves, but luckily for me, he was also making some mistakes. And so at this moment of the race, I feel like if he wasn't really making mistakes, he probably could have stretched out enough because of the mistakes I was making. Like again, I just hit another curve. He probably could have stretched out enough that he probably would have pulled enough of a lead that I couldn't have closed back up because I would have been just far enough out of the slipstream that it wouldn't have made a difference. But luckily for me, he was really, he was making some big mistakes as well, and that was good. This track is super, super difficult. Obviously, I don't know if you guys have followed my channel much at all, but we race this track normally the other direction, so there's not a lot of runoff this way. The runoff is all on the entry of the corners, as you can see right there. It's on the entry, but there's none on the exit. So when you make a mistake, it really punishes you because you have to really check out of the throttle. And so, like I said, we're just kind of trading mistakes at this point, and that's luckily keeping us close. You see right here, I get on the throttle a little bit soon. I get a big snap out of the wheel. And that's one of those things that you have to pay attention to as a driver. You can't just let your mistakes get away from you. You have to make sure you're staying on top of it. And in that moment, I actually had to come out of the throttle in the exit of the corner. And that's one of those things you got to do. You got to be able to sacrifice and tell yourself, even though you're nervous and this is like a great opportunity to get up on the leader's bumper, maybe you got to lift and just take the loss right now and then translate that later on and see if you can gain it back. You got to minimize your losses, even though everything's telling you stay on the throttle, even though we're sliding off the corner. Dropping a tire would have killed this whole race, and I would have fallen back way too far. That wouldn't have been able to close this gap up. But yeah, we go around like this for a little bit longer, and then I think I'm able to get a good run going and try and close that gap. But in my head, I'm just telling myself, dude, calm down. You were overdriving a little bit, hitting a couple curves. You're trying to adjust to the aero wash, but it wasn't working. But again, we're seeing where we're faster where we're slower. And you can see there right at the end of the straightaway, I'm starting to close that gap again. And so I'm realizing, okay, he's on a little bit of a higher gear. So, you know, if this does come down to it, I gotta play my hands a little bit better. So a few laps have gone by, and I'm getting this weird thing where, you know, we're just in this accordion effect where I'm faster in different spots and he's faster in other spots, and it's really awkward and I'm not able to get a good run. I come off this corner and I'm like, you know what? If I don't get, you know, after it, try and get to the lead again, we're just gonna stay in this awkward spot where he's a little bit faster here and I'm a little bit faster there. So I sent in really late there just to try to get back to the lead. Obviously, he and I right now, we're looking at our dashes and we're kind of counting the laps. I'm assuming he's looking at his dash, but I'm looking at my dash and I'm kind of seeing where we're at. I think we're getting around like 5 or 4 to go. It's kind of hard to do the math on the dash when you're, you know, all worked up like this and you're really like hot and tired. And so I'm thinking we're around 5 or 4 to go. And so at this point, I was like, let's try and get to the lead. Again, I'm not going to start the whole blocking thing right now, just because I felt a little bit stronger. I felt like if I could get, you know, in front of him, I could definitely, you know, make it a little bit harder for him to stay with me. I'm getting good runs at the end of the straightaway, so I don't really feel like I need to block down into this corner, which is good for me. But again, that next left-hander, he's normally really quick. Again, I'm looking at this and going, okay, I think we're around 3 to go at this point. So I go really deep because this is a corner he was passing me all the time. I go really deep and kind of narrow here because I didn't want that option to be available to him. I come off this corner, I give it like a little bit of a hump there, and I'm trying to go into this corner. I'm going, you know, relatively tight because I'm trying to cover it off, and he gets underneath me, and that honestly was a great pass for him because it really messed me up, and I was really out of the rhythm. And the way we were going, like, you know, honestly, that gap right there, past 6-7 laps was enough that I couldn't really close that gap. We were staying at this gap basically for the whole time. You can see here I'm like really defeated because I just worked so hard to close this gap in the last 7 laps. And again, I'm counting my laps down. I'm like, I think there's about 2 to go, and right here I get the sign it's 2 to go. I'm like, wow, that really messed me up right there because now I'm in a tough spot. And so right here I was like, you've got to give it everything you can in this last lap, because if you don't, the race is over anyway. So go as deep as you can. Right now I look back, we have a huge gap to second, so it's like, give it everything. So there I went as deep as I could. And then this one, I go as deep as I can. And luckily, I think he makes a little bit of a mistake here. He goes a little bit wide. He's missing this apex quite a bit. And so I'm going, okay, he's giving me hope. I'm getting hope. All I really want to do is get close enough that he feels the need to block. Because if he blocks from one corner, then I'm in the game. And so I was like, I need to get close enough that down at the back straightaway or the front straightaway, he's going to block. He's going to defend, and that's going to put me in the game. And so luckily, I got a good run off of those corners. This lap I actually went purple, so I really I pulled this one out from deep and really put down a good lap there. I kind of made a mistake there at that back section, but I definitely closed the gap, and he's definitely, you know, he can see that I've closed the gap. And so I think I'm close enough. As long as I nail these last couple of corners, was good out of there, good on the straightaway. I'm like, okay, he's going to definitely block down into here because you can make a late pass. He looks back, he sees me getting the run, which was good. He defends, this was good. I was like, great, I'm trying to do the over-under here. I didn't necessarily want to get stuck on the outside, but right there, you can see he taps the brakes. And when I go again, you guys will see he's tapping the brakes over and over. And right here, I got a good run, and I was like, okay, I was gonna probably back off and get back, you know, behind his bumper, but he starts tapping the brakes. What he's doing is he's trying to keep me up on the outside of him. When you're behind a driver, and they're defending, you have a lot more options than they do, because obviously they have to stay that inside line. They have to stay tight all the way down into the corner, and you can either stay tight with them or last second you can pop out and get that over-under on the exit. So it gives you a lot more options if you can follow in behind them, you know, if there's no drivers behind you, right? What ends up happening though is he's tapping the brake, which is a really good move. He's keeping me on his outside. And again, like I said, I'll play it and you guys will see that he's tapping the brakes and he's keeping me on the outside. And that's really smart, because now what he's able to do is he's going to run me up to the outside of the racetrack, and then he's going to obviously get himself a much better position going into the corner, and so and it's really going to mess me up as I try to set up for the over-under. And so you see this, right, as we come off the corner, he starts tapping the brakes, and so I'm stuck at this point where I'm like, okay, maybe I can try and go up and around the outside. I just think better of it, I switch back, I end up getting the over-under, he gives me a lot of space here. He doesn't run me into the grass, which is good. You know, we're racing very respectfully. Right here, I get to the lead, so it was good. I was able to get to the over-under. I jump over this curb because sometimes you can pass one into here. Again, I try to get down to the inside of the racetrack here. I slow up, I wait extra long to get on the gas, and right here, he's on the outside of me. And at this point, he's about half a kart length in front of me, and so I need to make sure I cover one of these areas up. Either he's going to back off and he's going to do the over under, or he's going to go in and try and wrap it around the outside, which is something you can do in this corner. And so at this point, I'm kind of stuck trying to figure out what am I going to do, because right now he's a bit further in front of me. So as we go into the corner, you can see he kind of pops ahead and then brakes a second time. And when he brakes like that, he falls back in. And so at that moment, he kind of sold me the dummy and that he was going to go, you know, around the outside. So I committed to that. And then he broke and got back underneath. And that's why he was able to get, you know, the over-under through this corner. And so we just kind of traded over-unders this whole time. But basically right there, I made a huge mistake because I over-committed to that move, you know, to him trying to go around the outside. And as we get further into the corner, you can even see here, like as I'm just leaving the apex, I'm really tight in the middle of this corner. Like normally as we get to the middle of the corner, you go over, well over that black line in the middle there. You know, your tires are pretty far over it, and I keep it to the left of that line. So I'm already really narrow. But what Joe was able to do is when I got to this point, he was able to give me a little bit of a nudge as he made the crossover. That kind of ran me a little bit wide. He was able to get his cart in up the middle, and then he was able to make the pass. So yeah, as we see it right here, he gets a little bit up the inside of me. I had a little bit of a slide as I came off the corner, and that was it. You know, it's a little bit too late at this point. Obviously, can't do anything. A little shake of the head there because I was just frustrated because I worked really hard for that one to get it back in contention, and it's another P2. You know, you got to be there. You got to be fighting the whole time for these race wins. I mean, it's tough. They don't come easy. And yeah, every race you're learning. You know, there's always something you can do better, and you could always put yourself in a little bit better spot so that you don't end up like this. Especially getting sold a dummy like that with like 3 corners to go. That's always the worst feeling because you just got played. And so yeah, that was my race. That was my battle for the lead. What a fun race. I mean, that's what racing's all about. That's true exciting racing right there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot knowing that you guys are supporting this. Please make sure to pick up your Norbert Nation merch. And then also comment down below what you think I should have done differently to have won this race. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.